Open any manga on your shelf. Now open any American superhero comic next to it. One is bursting with color. The other is entirely black and white. Why? You would assume it comes down to taste. Maybe Japanese readers just prefer a moodier, more artistic look. Maybe color would ruin the atmosphere. That is not it. The real reason has almost nothing to do with art, and everything to do with a deadline that never stops coming. Here is the schedule most people do not know about. A serialized manga in a magazine like Weekly Shonen Jump is not monthly. It is not even fortnightly. It is weekly. Every single week, the mangaka has to deliver around 18 to 20 finished pages, fully drawn, inked, lettered, ready to print, every week, for years, sometimes for decades. Now ask yourself something. How do you add full color to 20 pages a week forever without ever missing a single deadline? You do not. Coloring a single comic page properly, the way an American publisher does it, can take hours of dedicated work by a specialist whose only job is color. Multiply that by 20 pages. Every week. With no break. The maths simply does not survive contact with the calendar. So the mangaka and their small team of assistants make a choice forced on them by physics and time. Line art, tone, print, repeat. This is where the flip happens. Because manga is not actually colorless, it only looks that way. For decades, artists have reached for something called Screentone, sheets of dot patterns, textures, and gradients, often sold under brand names like Deleter or IC. The artist cuts a piece of tone to shape and presses it onto the page. A gray sky, a shadowed cheek, the heavy dread in a storm cloud, all of it built from dots without a single drop of ink beyond black. Screentone is a shortcut invented to fake what color and shading normally do, and it works because your brain fills in the rest. You are not seeing color, you are inferring it. That is a technique built entirely around speed. It exists because there was never time for anything slower. Now compare that to how American comics actually get made. A typical American publisher spreads the work across a whole assembly line of specialists. A penciler draws it, an inker finishes the line work, a letterer adds the text, and then, critically, a dedicated colorist paints the entire thing, usually digitally, layer by layer. Nobody on that team is drawing next week's issue at the same time. The workload is split across several people and measured out over a month, not crammed into 7 days. That process produces something beautiful. It also produces roughly 20 to 32 pages a month, not a week. 4 times the schedule. Sometimes more. Suddenly, the color makes sense. There is room for it. Manga was never given that room. It was built on a different economic model from the start, one magazine chapter at a time, printed fast and cheap, with dozens of other series competing for the same pages every single week. There is also a printing cost story hiding underneath all of this. Those weekly magazines are enormous. Hundreds of pages, multiple ongoing series, sold at a low cover price to a mass audience. Printing hundreds of pages in full color every week at that price was never realistic. Black and white interiors kept the economics of weekly serialization standing upright, and there is a cost to all of this that goes far beyond the page. Weekly serialization is one of the most punishing production schedules in any creative industry on Earth. Mangaka have spoken openly, in interviews and in their own memoirs, about all-nighters that become a permanent lifestyle rather than an occasional emergency. Sleeping at the studio. Missing meals, missing family events, working through illness because the magazine deadline does not care how you feel. Some of the medium's biggest names have described this exact grind. Weeks blurring into an unbroken chain of pages, assistants working alongside them just to keep the machine running. It is not a rumor. It is simply how the industry has operated for generations. So when you ask why manga is black and white, you are actually asking a much bigger question. You are asking what an industry does when it decides speed matters more than anything else. Weekly deadlines shaped the schedule. The schedule made color impossible. Screentone stepped in to solve the problem color left behind. And underneath all of it, real people paid the price in sleep, in health, and in time they never got back. The next time you see a beautifully shaded page in black and white, look closer. Those dots are not decoration. They are a workaround built by exhausted hands against a clock that was never going to slow down. Now you know.